After that, the next day, you go back, you not cool down properly, and then you go back and get something to eat. You sleep, get up, next morning, there's more press event. You had to go and do that, and then come back, after you, especially with him, the whole family, in a hotel suite. It was like a zoo, So you had to pack everything back together, basically spend all afternoon packing, and then on Monday. 1500-meter final was Sunday, and then Monday, just afternoon, pack all afternoon, and then in the evening, took a flight out to Seattle, and then from Seattle stayed overnight over there, and then the next morning flew to Europe. And then all those flights, again, you're not training very well. You know what? Right off getting off the plane, his IT band started hurting. And then probably with the IT band hurting, but it wasn't bad enough that he couldn't run. He kept running, but I think I wasn't actually there at that time. His probably gait changed a little bit, and then exactly 1 week after, so it's the next Sunday, when I arrived in Germany. I get off the plane, he came to pick me up at the airport, and then we went to the forest. He did a run, and came out and says, "Gosh, Coach, I don't know why my Achilles hurts." And he actually had to stop before he even finished the race. Finished the run. He had to walk the last probably about 10 minutes or so. That took him out. That Achilles tendon took him out. So that's July 11th, 12th, somewhere around there. July 12th. Took him about exactly 2 weeks. Just could not train. We had all kinds of physio situation and try to help. And then he had just basically a couple of days of running, and then went to London and ran that mile. If you remember seeing those races. Went to London, ran the mile, finished third, running 3:55. That didn't help his confidence. So the last thing I want to say is the indications of confidence. And then again, this is just now more like a story. In 2007, as I probably said, actually earlier in the year during the trials, and he felt terrible because of a stomach problem. The doctor couldn't identify it, and then the doctor gave him some medicine, and then that turns out the medicine actually made him tired and made him so much worse. So the trials didn't go very well, barely finished third in the 1500 meters, and then goes to Europe. That first race in Paris finished, was there, 6th or 7th, running 3:35 barely, couldn't finish 6th. And it was so bad, and he felt so bad. And then the next race, after about a little more than a week, that's when we figured out, actually his wife figured out, his wife went online and he checked the medicine that the doctor gave him and said, wait a minute, one of the listed side effect of that medicine is making you fatigued, tired. And so many things Kip was experiencing. So we actually went there and called back to the doctor over in Phoenix, and then so we stopped that medicine and he started feeling better. But went to London, still only managed to finish third in that 1500 meters. That's when actually, before that, this is just the story that I want to say. Before that, I noticed, because I was there, with him, in workouts, he started running too hard. Like those intervals we do. Just for instance, if I say 600 meters, you should run 123, he would go 120. And stuff like that. He would run so hard. And then after the London race, we sat down and we talked for a long time, and I said, I think you are trying to find the affirmation find the kind of confidence that to tell you that you're still okay. You need to do that in, I said, you probably feel that and you have to do those in practice. I said, you run too hard in practice. And then his comment was, he said, Coach, if I don't do it, if I can't do it in practice, how can I do in a race? But then this is what my reply to him. I said, Kip, think back. You'll always do that. You always run so much better in races than you run in practice. Okay, this is about Kip. I can't say about every athlete. But that's definitely him. And I don't want to go into too much about some past stories. That guy is amazing. He can do those workouts you see, and really not too impressive, but he can race so much faster. It's just him. I said, Kip, that's just you. You can't do that. You always can't do that. You don't need to have a fast practice to give you that confidence. I think he took that, and actually after that, I had to come back to the States. So if you go, afterwards, our text message and our email, I was just for 2 weeks so repeatedly tell him, slow down. Believe things are okay. You'll be okay. Well, we canceled the race in Monaco and gave him a little bit of time, and then he came back, ran in London. Still only 3:35, but this time completely brilliant. With 150 meters to go, he was probably 7th place. And just the way he passed everyone in the last 100 meters was just unbelievable. Actually, right after that, even Ray Flang, I think I saw Ray Flang. Ray Flang said, if you see him run that 3:35, he's going to win the World Championships. But anyway, now in comparison of his Achilles problems, the race in London, the miles, 3:55, finished 3rd. He was kind of in the same situation. But this year, I think between him and I, we're in a little bit worse situation because of my Olympic assignments. Being a team manager, I left him a lot earlier in Europe. And then I was going to see him in Dalian, but it turns out his flight got delayed from Hong Kong into Dalian, our training camp. And I had to leave. So I never really even saw him in Dalian. And just tell you this, 5 days before the first race in Olympic Games, I'm not saying this is it. He definitely those 2 weeks, he lost some confidence. He lost some training, lost some fitness. But 5 days, that Sunday, his first race is was on Friday. That Sunday, we said, it's a workout we've sort of done before, quite, consistently. We do a 300 meters to warm up. I said 45, 46. All right, and then I said you do 1,000 meters. Okay, but I said 1,000 meter, 2:25. That'd be plenty fast. And then after the 1,000 meter, you do 2 more 300s, and you run about 40 and 38. That'd be pretty fast. I thought that would be a really good workout. You know what? I wasn't there, but I think many of the coaches, Coach Gax and I think Coach Veo even, saw him do that. Instead of running 2:25, he did 2:19.9, 2:19.8. Let me tell you, he's never run that fast in practice for 1,000 meters. His best was 2:21 in practice. So, did that really put him? Maybe. But the point I'm trying to make is, that is actually the indication to me of his confidence. He was trying to do that 2:19 to convince himself, I'm now ready. Yes, I had that injury. yes, I lost a couple of weeks, but now I'm ready. Look, you know, he did probably feel pretty good afterwards, you know, that I did that 1,000 meter in 2:19. But I think that carried into the Olympic Games, and you know, a few days ago I was talking to Larry. He was just flat. He was just flat. And then actually a little bit come back again, that 5,000 meter preliminaries, where he did not qualify for the final in the 15. And of course it was so devastating to him. And then came back 5,000 meter in the prelim. If you go back and check, he ran again beautifully. You know, he ran beautifully. But so everything is about timing. I think the timing in 2007 was great, and then this year somehow it's just a little bit off. Only about 7 or 8 days after the Olympic Games, he went to Europe and ran a 1,000 meter PB. So, anyway, questions?
Yes, that 13-mile loop. What pace did you have him run on that 13-mile loop you mentioned, talked about earlier?
You figure if he runs about 70, 71 minutes for 13 miles.
Oh, you gave time. Okay, I didn't hear the time. I heard you talk. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you said he doesn't train hard. I mean, he's got some pretty nice training. I mean, he's rolling in training.
Yeah. No, I think what I meant about that is there are days he just don't do anything that you would consider training.
Right. Gotcha.
You know, and he's perfectly okay. And I think we have the kind of comfort than saying, okay, well, if we don't run or if we jog only 25, 30 minutes, we'll be okay. We're not losing it.
Gotcha, right. And I do agree with you on that Olympic trials can hurt some of the Americans. At least back in my days, we would hurt us. We went 4 rounds, and some of our main competitors didn't have to even go through rounds. They just were handpicked on the team. So I agree with you.
Yeah, well, you know, I heard the argument about the athletes need to be able to run the runs and those things. But I really think if you're someone who is going to be medaling in the Olympic Games, you probably should have done it way before the Olympic trials.
I agree with you.
If you have to wait until Olympic trials to train yourself to get ready to run the runs in the Olympic Games, you're probably in trouble. That's my opinion about this.
I agree.
And I just think 5.5 weeks before Olympic Games, there is really no need for our athletes to go through that Olympic experience. So you're almost, I think many of you will agree with me, you almost go through 2 Olympic Games in 6 weeks.
And not only does it wear you out physically, it wears you out mentally.
Yeah, well, so much hype, so much excitement. Again, as I said, 2007 was a 4-day trial. You run 3 races in 4 days. And this is the 8 race days, but 10-day span. I don't know if those made a difference. That's my opinion. Anyway. Yes?
We work in 3-week cycles. If a kid changes his fitness level, I've got some Kenyans that do that. And they change their fitness level, they go down, and you notice your runner came back 2 or 3 weeks later and ran pretty fast. Are you working on a cycle, so many weeks? If they change that level, go a little harder, like ran that 219, takes them down a little bit. We think it takes about 3 weeks to swing back up.
Yeah, well, I definitely think, 5 days wasn't enough, I think, for the Olympic, this year in the Olympic Games, running that hard. I would so much rather, I think, again, as I said, this is some of the things you never know, really. But if you really need to run very relaxed, a 225, and running really, relaxed and then kick in, if you run the last 100 meters really fast and kick, you feel great, that'll be fine. That'll be totally fine. And if you do that in 224, 223 event, I think you will be better off.
Do you have a support team, like physio?
No. We're doing it in a really primitive way. You know, his wife, he met his wife in college, and his wife was a student trainer. So she eventually got a degree in athletic training, and then, so his wife does a lot of his care. You know, a lot of things, but you know what? We go to ice bath, we do those things, that's it. You know, even for me, I always say, as a coach, I really haven't used the scientific ways to measure things. Not to say I'm against any scientific ways.
Any more questions?
Just one more. How do you control the different phases of training then?
How do I control?
Well,
you know, and every year, at the beginning of the year, I think I do have, you know, it was really great, have the luxury. I think many of you coaches probably don't, if, you know, was the elite athletes, not quite to the degree. I have the luxury, I think, Kip's agent really listens to me, to Kip, and we would sit down, we would set basically next year's race schedule. And then based on that race schedule, well, based on how I think the phases would be, we'll set the race schedule. And then once the race schedule is set, the training phases are basically based on that. And you know, again, there is some practical matter in here. You know, I mean, we would go run 4 or 5 indoor races, makes pretty good money. So, you know, it pays to have this little 2-peak type of cycle in the year.
Okay, James, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Tomorrow morning, we start at 8 o'clock sharp, military.
segundo día, 10 de diciembre del 2008, estamos en Las Vegas, Nevada.
3 minutes at altitude, 2 minutes at sea level. If you follow an